under a matriarchy, then why, as you
And
say,
y'all answer the poll and let us know what you think. Would you rather live in a society that was ran under a matriarchy or a patriarchy? I personally think we live in a society that's ran as a gynocracy, which means we're under the supreme control of women. But like I said, I have my own personal opinions. Men are in power, but men are only in power because we have the physical attribute, like the physicality to be in power, guys. Past that, women are in control. Women are in control because even now, things that go on, and I'm saying in society, I'm referring to the American society. Shout out to everybody else elsewhere. I'm in America. Shout out to my people. You feel me? I'm saying in the case of America, Western civilization, yeah, women run the world around here, ninja, because women know, like I said, a man's gonna do something for a woman, and it's regardless if a ninja is straight, if a man is straight, heterosexual, whatever they say, right? Even a gay man, a homosexual man, even the trans community, LGBTQIA plus, we still gonna help out a woman, and that's where I say, you feel me, that women run the world, because even gay men will help women. You feel me? Does that make sense? Here we go.
the CIA, which was the group of men that funded the feminist movement, also includes the Rockefellers, which were also men. Why would they need to give women the right to lead a house, the right to vote, all of these things, right? Why would that need to be taking place by men?
And I'll say this too. The reason why they gave them that is because women asked for it too. So like I said, I've read a lot of books, people. So I've read certain books on this. So I've read books about relationships, social dynamics, and women. I'm not going to say the books I read because I don't want to come off as misogynistic, but always understand that a lot of the things that you guys hear me say, I'm saying it like I'm quoting it from women that have said these things. So for example, the current state of society, right? Wherever society was in the past, before society where society was at where it was at, I personally feel, and I can be wrong, we're all entitled to an opinion, but I feel that society was the current way it was at that point in time because that's what the women of that current time wanted, ninja. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So whenever men became in control, like I said, past the barbarianism, I personally think that women wanted men in control. Even when men were able to enforce the law, like I said, the reason why men are in control is because we're able to enforce the law. The women chose the strongest men. That's just how it been. And it doesn't matter if she was gay, straight, or whatever. Even a gay woman will still probably choose a strong man. She's not going to put herself around a weak man that can't defend her. Here we go.
Further confirming that we live under a patriarchy and not a matriarchy. The same people who funded the feminist movement are also the same people who funded the Board of Education.
All right, boom. Let's stop her right there. So the same people that funded the feminist movement or whatever she said, right? My whole thing is, if the same people who funded feminism are the people in control, it would naturally only make sense that the people in control who have the most access to resources fund the same movement that might change the course of history. So I'm confused, bro. That's why I always say, people, sometimes you got to watch people because they're saying stuff and they may have some truth to what they're saying. Like, don't get me wrong. She has her own personal way of thinking and she may come off as an intellectual or whatever the case may have you. But the thing is, if men and women weren't equal at that time when feminism started happening and that movement was created, how else were they supposed to get the money? Can somebody break that down for me? Somebody break that down for me. How else would they get the money? They had to get the money from the people who were in power one way or another, whether it was directly or indirectly. They weren't going to just make the money from thin air. Easiest example to explain what I just said, look at the current state of the Black community. Shout out to the American Black people. Shout out to the FBAs, and all the tethers across the diaspora. Shout out to the tethers too. Right? What do they call it? Separation. What was it called? Inclusion, whatever. Whenever inclusion happened after slavery, inclusion didn't happen to necessarily give Black people a chance to survive. Inclusion happened to better the economy. So even feminism wasn't created to give women a chance for their own rights to be free or whatever the case may have you. That was a ruse, if you will. The idea was to turn around and add more people to the workforce. Even now when women, they say that they're in they want to work and all that. That's cool and all that. That's a plus that comes out of it. But always remember, women spend more money than men. So when you guys see these things and feminism and all that, like the reason why they want women working is because women are willing to spend more money. Whereas men, we're willing to spend our money. And I'm saying as a heterosexual male, shout out to the Alphabet Brigade. I'm saying as a heterosexual male. So if you don't feel included, shout out to the queers and non-queers and they, them. Don't come for me, ninja. I'm just saying, ninja. I'm saying as a heterosexual male, like once you have everything you want as a man, and I keep harping on this, once you have everything you want as a man, you don't really need anything else. You're just gonna stack your money because there's nothing else to buy unless you're trying to buy shit to impress a woman, or you're trying to buy a woman, my ninja. That's it. That's it in all reality. Let's continue.
So when you give people who have been intentionally stupefied a controller to tell them they can play the political game, you're going to get people who vote based on their emotions, who vote parallel to their husbands, who vote for all types of emotional reasons and not policy. Because the education in America, reading comprehension for adults in America is 6th grade. Even though women are far better at literacy, it's interesting that globally, under a global patriarchy, it's interesting that 2/3 of the 770 million people or adults globally are illiterate, which would be women.
Yeah, you lost me there, buddy. Like I said, shout out to the feminists. I'm not hating on this lady. It's just as far as I know, whether or not we're discussing literacy or illiteracy, there's more than 770 million people in the entire world, ninja. Isn't there like 10 billion people? There's like 8 billion people in the world, ninja. Like globally, ninja. Globally. But I just wanted to let you hear what she had to say. Like I said, shout out to her for having her own way of thinking. I don't necessarily agree with it. It's not my problem though. And the reason why I don't agree with it is because she's speaking from a skewed perspective. So she's not speaking as if she cares for women. She's speaking from a perspective of the need to be right. Now, like I said, it may come off the same way as me, but I don't care about being right. I don't care what nobody has to say. I got my own perspective, so I'm going to stand on it. And the reason why I stand on it is because I know, being a black man in America, no matter what you say, people are going to be mad at you regardless. So you can say the right thing, people are still going to be mad. You can say the wrong thing. Shout out to the ninjas that look like me. Y'all know at work, you go to work, you work too much. If you work too hard, they'll turn around and say you work too hard. If you work too little, they'll turn around and call you lazy. You do the job, they'll say there's more to do. Like I said, it's never enough. So that's why I stand on principles now. Fuck what everybody has to say, ninja. All right, so look, let's see. Let's bring it up now. Candace Owens and oh shit, hold on one second, y'all. Candace Owens and the Queen Maker. Let's see this debate. Here we go.
Pleasure to meet you. I'm Princella, the Queen.
Shout out to the Queen Maker. Shout out to Candace Owens. And y'all know Candace Owens. She's in the political world. I don't know too much about her. I know enough though. But the reason why I don't know too much about her. She don't play for the same team as me, ninja. And what I mean by that is, she like white men, ninja. And that's okay.
You need to leave.
It's okay that she likes white men, but because she doesn't find people that look like me attractive based off her own notions and statements, I'm not really I don't fiend to talk about people that don't like things that look like me. Does that make sense? Shout out to my white brothers and sisters. Like I said, I like white women and I'll fornicate with white women, but I'm not too into talking about white people like that. And it's not that I'm afraid to talk about them. It's the fact that, like I said, majority of them don't like me. So it's like, why am I talking about people that don't like me? You feel me? I have the same sentiment as them. They don't like me per se. I'm not necessarily inclined to be of a liking to them. Now, I like the white people that like me. Shout out to the white people that I met in my life that were cool. Shout out to them. They know who they are. I like them. But I'm saying in its entirety, I don't really know, you know. I focus on what's focused on me per se. Shout out to KB. KB asked, are they married? I guess you're referring to Candace Owens and her husband. Yeah, they're married as far as I know. They are married, and I think they have kids. So yeah, like I said, she's spoken for. So since she's spoken for, I'm not really inclined to think about her like that. But here we go.
Maker.
Love that.
So you say we live in a matriarchy.
Right.
Can you give me the definition of patriarchy?
Yes. Well, the patriarchy is the idea that the system, our system in America, is being run by men, and that women are having to exist under a system that immediately disadvantages them because men are behind it. And I disagree with that pointedly. I think actually we're living in a society where people are being very much influenced socially and politically by women.
Okay, so the denotative definition of patriarchy is father rule, and where positions of government are held majorly by men, where women are largely excluded. So 125 House of Representatives are female, and that's only about 25%.
Right.
And only about 28% make up Senate, and 3.3% of Congress up until this date have ever been women. So by denotative definition, we literally live in a patriarchy.
Yes. So I disagree with that. So I think what this gets to, which is actually an important part of the conversation, is that people always think that where there is disparity, there's somehow inequality. And I actually reject that entirely. I think it's just a difference in what we're interested in. I think we're biologically wired. We're interested in different.
All right, so let me break that down because that was a lot to digest. All right, so what's the lady name? The Queen Maker basically said the definition, which I put in the YouTube chat. A patriarchy is a system or society of government in which men predominantly hold the power and women are largely excluded from it. Now, I'm of the same opinion of Candace Owens, whereas women may want power, but they don't necessarily want the power that they say that they want. Now, let me break that down because, you know, a lot of people get up in arms. What do I mean by that? Power, with great power comes, in the famous words of Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. So it's a lot to have power. It's a lot to run a country. That shit is stressful. My perfect example, shout out to KH, Kamala Harris. Shout out to Kamala Harris. Look at how, if you look at when Kamala Harris started running for president, and then you looked at how she went through, if you look at her facial structure, she literally aged from trying to run for president. Secondly, if you looked at her reaction, like I said, we don't have the same sentiments per se. So it's cool to want to be empowered, but with great power comes great responsibility. So it's not easy to actually be in power. We all like the idea of power, right? We like the idea of it, but actually maintaining it, it's not fun. It's not fun. The shit requires work and the shit is not easy. Shout out to KB Wildin. KB said, I hope I have went home before women get in control because it's coming. Yeah, it's coming. And that's the thing. So when women get power, I'm not going to say that they abuse it, but women don't look at power the same way dudes look at power. So for example, you know, men, we get power, like let's say money, right? Men get money to give away, whereas women get money to hold it down for themselves. So it's shit like that where you have to kind of see the writing on the wall. And I'm not saying that to be sexist or whatever. I'm saying it's just the writing on the wall. And it's fine that they want to do that, but we can't give you power. Like we can't give you that kind of money so you can sit on it. Like the money's supposed to be spent. Shout out to these corporations. Here we go.
Careers. And just because if we looked in the fashion industry and said, oh, well, it's being dominated by women, it wouldn't mean that, okay, well, that means that the fashion industry is a matriarchy and men have no sense. It just means have no ability to communicate how they feel in the fashion industry. I literally think that those numbers show that we're just biologically different. So I actually think politically, women have shown that they have a lot more power than men have. And I'm talking about just in terms of political movements. The most recent I can think of is the Me Too movement, right? Yep. If a bunch of women get together and complain about a man and refer to the patriarchy and scream, generally speaking, let me know if you agree, the media will celebrate that. if a bunch of men got together and were shrieking and speaking about women, generally speaking, the media would call them all white supremacists and say that we had a misogyny problem
that's where Candace loses me, because Candace, you know, the difference between me and Candace Owens is Candace Owens, I guess these are the people in power, but Candace Owens looks to the white man. So I don't really look to the white man. And shout out to my white brothers and my white male counterparts. Shout out to them. But yeah, when I think men, I don't think white men. When I think men, I think men in general. So yes, if men in general were to do the same things that women did, we would be gaslighted, we would be shamed, we will be manipulated, we will be guilt tripped for doing those things. And that's fine, because men aren't supposed to act like women. But if we're not held to the same standards, this is the thing I always say. If we're not held to the same standards, we're not equal. And it's okay to not be equal, because, you know, women always say we're supposed to be equal to men, we're equal to men. And I always tell women this, it's like, okay, you can want to be equal to men, but ladies, you got to remember this, ladies. Men are not equal. So if men are not equal, if there's a hierarchy among men, how are all women equal to men? Can somebody break that down for me? Can somebody break that down for me? That's what I always try to tell people. It doesn't make sense. Men are not equal amongst each other. Every man is different. Whether or not you want to admit that to yourself, you don't. You think all guys are the same. We don't even make the same amount of money. So the hierarchy is already created through the money. So how are all women equal to men if men aren't equal to each other? That's what I always want to figure out. But besides the point, I digress from this conversation, because this is not about me. This is about Candace Owens and Princella, the queen maker.
We're really wrong in society. Women are allowed to be more vocal in general about problems than men are.
Well, let me speak to that. Mm-hmm. When we're talking about government and media, these are two different things. So under the denotative definition of a...
And another thing too, shout out to KB. KB said I'm not equal to a man. Another thing too, what did she say right here? Hold on, let me run that back. Right here.
Things.
So she said the media and government are two different things. And I'm here to tell you guys, the media and the government is the same thing. The media is the fourth branch of unrestricted government. Ninja, are y'all hearing me, bro? Are y'all hearing me? The media is the fourth branch of unrestricted government. I've already said this so many times, because the media can turn around and write something about you. And if 20 different publications write something about you, everybody believes it, whether or not it's true. Boom. Let me give you the comparison. Let's say you're a terrorist. If the CIA puts out, what is it called? An Amber Alert. If the CIA or the local law enforcement agencies who work for the government put out a APB on you, everybody's assuming that you are dangerous. That's how the media works. So the media and government coincide with each other, and they work hand in hand. Fourth branch of unrestricted government. The difference between the media and the government, and the reason why the media is not considered part of the government, is so specifically they can work unrestrictedly under the law of freedom of speech. That's how dangerous the media is. But it's okay. It's okay, because it's necessary, because we need to know information. But the media literally works unrestricted, minus the freedom of speech, to where you can't put out hate, right? They can put out whatever they want and then retract it and say, we made a mistake. They can put out whatever they want about you and then retract it afterwards, after they painted a picture. My perfect example is Diddy. Shout out to Diddy. In the media, they painted Diddy as guilty, and this ninja still beat the government. Ninja! Are y'all hearing me? They put this ninja in the media as guilty, and he still beat the government in terms of RICO charges. Now, I'm not defending an abuser. I'm just saying that's a perfect example of how they coincide and work amongst one another, right? They work with each other, but at the same time, the media works unrestrictedly, because we can put out whatever we want under the idea of the Free Speech Act and the freedom of press. Here we go.
So under the denotative definition of a patriarchy, by the percentages that are occupied in the government, which is majority male, defines us as a patriarchy. Now, when it comes to for capitalism, for marketing purposes and control, for capital and revenue, that is a totally different conversation. But who's making the laws? I don't.
And then that's where you lose us. Now, she has some truth to what she said. That is a different conversation. So marketing purposes and everything, that's a different conversation. But always understand that if they're marketing towards women, if everything is being marketed towards women, we have to assume that women are the ones who are actually in control. Because if women weren't in control, why are they marketing towards women, right? And I'm always going to use the example of black people being slaves in America. And if that's too much for y'all, that's too extreme for y'all, I'll use the example of slaves in general. If I had slaves, why would I market to these slaves if these slaves were not in control? Why would I market to these slaves? Like I said, now to control my slaves, I would lie to my slaves. I would tell my slaves false information. I tell them things they can and can't do so that way they would think a certain way. Like I said with women, women aren't necessarily told things they can and can't do. Men are told things they can and can't do. When it comes to responsibilities, Ninja, if I was to walk outside the crib right now, right, and I've seen this before with a streamer, we put this on the show. Ninja, if I was out in these streets right now, if I went to 6th Street, what up, Austin? We in the building. If I went to 6th Street right now, Ninja, if I went to 6th Street right now and I was walking by, right, and a girl was intoxicated and she passed by me and she said, "Move, Ninja." And I looked at her and I said, "Excuse me," right? And then she threw her drink on my face and then she slapped me, right? You know, somehow, some way, they blame me. They'd say you shouldn't be out that late. Why'd you get in her face? Did you say something to her? What did you do? Mind you, I ain't do nothing to this girl. Like I said, y'all know I love the ladies, but I gotta reinforce my point. Let me reinforce my point. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna show y'all. Watch this, guys. Watch this, because this is the society we live in. But if you speak too much, they'll try and shut you down. They've already tried to cancel me, so I personally don't care. Streamer, snapped on. Watch this. And I mean, shout out to the black women. It's not about y'all. I'm just using it as an example. Hold on. Here we go.
Are you mixed?
Are you mixed?
No, that's not it. Hold on. Hold on. Let me find it. It was this white ninja. Streamer. Slap. Hold up. Let me see if I can find it, bro. I might not be able to find. I don't know the ninja name. Oh yeah, this is it right here. Right here. Shout out to Jay Relly for giving us the perfect example. Shout out to Jay Relly. And the sad thing about it is when you speak the truth, ninjas get mad. I don't give a damn, ninja. Don't be mad at me, ninja. I'm just pointing it out. Look at this shit.
Excuse you. What? Did you hire me?
You can have it. You can have some manners.
Look. Listen.
That won't even be a thing. Excuse you.
What?
Did you hire me?
You can have it. You can have some manners.
Like I said, excuse you. What is you
You need to leave.
Y'all seen that? Y'all seen that? Look at his face, bro. Look at his face. Y'all see his face? Look at his face, dog. Bro, look at his face, bro. Look at his face, bro. Look.
You can have some fucking manners.
Like I said, excuse you.
You can have some manners. You can have some.
Like I said, excuse
Oh. I'm telling y'all. I'm telling y'all, bro.
You see what I'm saying, bro?
So you know, we covered this story. This is a random girl, people. So this ninja don't know her. This not no skit. This a random girl. And she came out and explained it. I'm gonna show you the next video. Hold on. I'm gonna show y'all the next video. And it's okay, because we give pretty women a pass. I be telling y'all ninjas, but look at this. I'm telling y'all, pretty privilege is a real thing, ninja. Because if a ninja did that, ninja would have got jumped by all her friends, ninja. Look at this.
You can call your nigga down here too. What am I saying? You got no fucking respect. Dumbass bitch. Suck my dick.
All right, so he turning up. So look. Watch this, guys. So Jay Relly, girl drunk, responds. Shout out to Jay Relly. I'm sorry you had to go through that, brother. I understand. So listen, bro. Listen.
Like I said, why I punched Jay Relly.
Hold on.
I'm sweet as fuck.
Look, she smacked that ninja in his face.
Everybody, we're back. With
All right, man. We ain't trying to hear you talk. Shout out to you, my brother. Hold on. I want her to speak for herself. Here we go.
In the face. So I'm not sitting here.
Man, come on. Why they can't just let this girl talk by herself?
Me putting my hands on anybody.
All right, come on. Hold on, bro. Hold on, bro. Hold on. And really what it was she was drunk. Here we go.
I punched Jay Relly in the face. So I'm not sitting here justifying me putting my hands on.
All right, y'all just gonna have to deal with the music, bro. But here go the story. Hold on. Y'all just gonna have to deal with the music, bro.
Like I said,
Why I punched Jay Relly in the face.
Look who it is. I totally did not see this coming.
So I'm not sitting here justifying me putting my hands on anybody.
So surely she takes accountability and realizes her actions are wrong and asks for forgiveness, right?
Drunk as fuck. 3 drinks in, mixed drinks. I'm done for it.
And boom, she brings out the drunk card. I don't get using the drunk card if you're able to articulate your words in a coherent way, so this is already invalid.
Excuse you. What? You got more manners. Through the water. Throw in the water, I ain't gonna lie. Too much. Drag it.
So when you threw the water in that nigga's face, that was dragging it. But when you socked him in the mouth, that was justified.
I don't got no excuse. I'm drunk as fuck.
Say you have no excuse, but then you proceed to say right after that you were drunk. Hey, accountability is up for y'all, some of y'all boys, bro.
All right, look, more of the story is she said she was drunk and that's why she did that. Now, like I said, let a ninja have done that. Everybody, including myself, would have said, throw that ninja under the jail, my ninja. Okay. Now, personally, like I said, I don't really care, but I'm using this to reinforce my point. Here we go, Candace Owens. Let's get back into it.
My next claim is that we live under a matriarchy.
Oh, shit, hold on.
My next claim is that we live under a matriarchy, not a patriarchy, and that women.
Well, by denotative definition, we
Hold up.
I literally think that those numbers show that we're just
Hold up.
biological.
Here we go. Let's continue.
If a bunch of men got together and were shrieking and speaking about women, generally speaking, the media would call them all white supremacists and say that we had a misogyny problem and that things were really wrong in society. Women are allowed to be more vocal in general about problems than men are.
Well, let me speak to that. When we're talking about government and media, these are two different things. So, under the denotative definition of a patriarchy, by the percentage that are occupied in the government, which is majority male, defines us as a patriarchy. Now, when it comes to for capitalism, for marketing purposes and control, for capital and revenue, that is a totally different conversation. But who's making the laws? I don't think that women are the ones voting to have their reproductive rights taken away, where you have rape, incest, and all of these things excluded to force women to be able to have. I don't think women in government would largely vote against their own interests because it's majority male. Patriarchy.
Okay, I think love that point. Are women allowed to vote?
Oh, of course they are.
Who's voting that patriarchy and then out of curiosity?
No, I totally agree. And you want to know why? Because
Okay, so it's basically what she said is who's voting the men in to be in power, and it's the women voting the men in to be in power. So now Queen Maker is gonna say, they're voting against their own self-interest. Here we go.
there are so many women who think like you submit to the idea of men ruling everything, and your ideology is spread across a lot of women who also falsely believe to vote against their own interests just to complain about it in the end. You earlier you said that women would be much more happier working at home, but don't you agree that it's human nature to want things that you don't have? Mm-hmm. So during the 1950s, which is something that you constantly bring up, it wasn't until 1994 that it was legally illegal to beat your wife. And so what we're dealing with is people wanting something, and then when they get it, they're not happy with it, and then they have to revoke that idea for something else. And so what you're saying is that women vote for these things because they have the same mentality as you.
Okay, so you're acknowledging that women have the freedom to vote.
Yes.
And you're saying that women are still existing mentally, even with the freedom to vote.
Correct.
They are voting men in because we are still victims of...
No, I don't believe in victimhood. I believe in lack of education and lack of knowledge, because one of the things that you also say...
Do you think that it could just be that more men are running for positions of office?
No, not necessarily, because remember, the United...
Now, shout out to Queen Maker. She's making some good points, but she's not trying to listen to what Candace is saying. So the reality of the situation is, yes, more men are trying to run for office than women. It is what it is. The statistics are out there. Go see for yourself. If there were more women trying to run for office, naturally there would be more women in these positions, right? It's just how it goes. Now there's maybe reasons socially or spiritually or emotionally as to why women don't do that. I can't really attest to that based off of preconceived notions or the past or whatever the case may have you. But we're living in a new world now. So it's kind of hard to always believe that argument, because one thing I know with women, and shout out to the ladies, enough is never enough. So women always want more, more, more. There'll never be enough. And that's why personally, I think that women will never fully be in power, because if we put women in power, they're never going to be satisfied. After they get the power, what's next? All right, now let's change the whole way society works. We can't do that. It doesn't make sense. Now they can go have power somewhere. I don't know where though, but not necessarily in America. Now shout out to the women that are going to be in power. So we're going to have a woman president. I see that coming in the future. We will have one. Don't get me wrong. And we'll have women in power, but we're not going to have, or maybe like 1,000 years into the future, we may have where it's like majority women in power and then less men. But I wonder what that society would look like, and is that society sustainable? Let us know what you think in the comment section. And like I said, people, I don't necessarily have these things that I'm saying, these opinions, as my personal belief. I am doing the Discord. This is my show, so I have to do the Discord and I have to start the conversation. Here we go.
States, the average reading comprehension of people in the United States is 6th grade. So we're not dealing with educated people. Lack of education is the cause for what we see in the world. And if we educate the women better, because a nation can rise no higher than its woman, and if she reading and comprehending at a 6th grade level and popping out a lot of kids, you know, because the brokest people in the world pop out the most kids. So if we have...
Shout out to Queen Maker. She's making good points. She's making good points. But the problem is she's making good points, but the problem is if everything that she's saying is true, how can we have these people in power if they have the 6th grade level comprehension? And that's where she turns around and messes up her argument, right? That's where she messes up her argument. It's a good intellectual conversation, and you know, the premise and the idea itself, it sounds nice on paper, but if these people aren't actually educated to a high level, if their education level is only at a 6th grade level, why would we put these people in power? The next thing she'll probably say is we need to have more infrastructure so these people can become smarter, or whatever the case may have you, and that's fine, but that still takes time. That doesn't mean we can just immediately put people in power. Let's continue.
Have those people voting, of course they're going to vote against their interests, because they're voting for some utopian society that will never exist.
Okay, so that's why you think Kamala lost.
This ain't even about Kamala.
Because you're talking about women. No, but we had an opportunity.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had a male running and we had a female running, and we actually showed that Trump increased the amount of women who voted for him, right? So I'm asking you, do you believe that the reason that happened was because women became less educated during that time?
They've always been less educated. Did you know that UNESCO says that
It's crazy because they say that, you know, she said that women are less educated, but since I went to college, and since I went to college, people, and I went to college, I started college over 10 years ago. Excuse me. So 10 years ago when I was in college, even at my college, there were more women on campus than there were men. Can you imagine? So that's why when I turn around and hear these conversations, I just be thinking to myself like,
but what the hell, boy?
kind of like, bro, what are we talking about, bro? When I was in college over 10 years ago, Ninja, end of this year makes 11 years. Yes, it's been 10 years. Over 10 years ago when I was in college, if not more, do y'all realize that there were more women in college when I was in college, Ninja? So it's like, what are we talking about now? Now it's even higher, Ninja. Here we go.
Thirds of the 7.7 million illiterate adults is women, illiterate. And we have 6th grade educated people voting. And guess who? Guess the dominant population is white women. And so guess what? Now you have to add a race element into that, which you already know exists. Because we, as black folks, we ain't the dominant people voting people in. Okay, so now when we have...
And then this becomes the next question. Okay, cool. So let's add white women into the equation. Shout out to the white queen. Shout out to Attorney General Pam Bondi. Pretty self. My bad to her husband. No disrespect to you, sir. I'm just using her as an example. So you see, we have Pam Bondi in a position of power, and she's not really the example I'm trying to say. The example I'm trying to make is, okay, so now let's add white women into the equation. are you going to be satisfied when you see white women in power? Huh? That's the next question. Because if you're not going to be satisfied when you see white women in power, that's when I turn around and tell you guys, this the shit I be talking about, where we give you something where you take we give you an inch and you take a mile. And I'm not saying all women, I'm saying when it comes to like these kind of things, like even shout out to the alphabet boys and girls. Y'all got to get this work too. See, the alphabet community is cool, but the problem with the alphabet community is they kind of put it under the guise of Black Lives Matter. Once the whole idea of Black Lives Matter died down, they added LGBTQ and then pride and all that into Black Lives, and then they illuminated, or they used that as a ruse to expand whatever they wanted. And that's where we're turning around and messing up society now. So like I said, okay, are you going to allow white women to be in power? And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, my conspiracy theory my conspiracy theory is that the first woman president in America is going to be a white woman. I said it here first. You heard it here first. And the reason why is because if they have to make a woman president, and if this is a race thing, why would they let a black woman be a president before a white woman? I mean, ask yourself that. So if we see the writing on the wall, why do we try to ignore the writing on the wall? Let's just call a spade a spade. The first woman president in America, that's whitewashed, as they like to say, whitewashed America, it would only naturally follow that the first woman president of America be a white woman. Now, if an anomaly happens, okay, cool. But more than likely, it's going to be a white woman, a Caucasian white woman, blonde hair, blue eyes, whatever is the most highest standard of beauty when it comes to white people. That's what's going to happen, Ninja. Here we go.
To go into white supremacy and feminism, now you have to look at the mind of the people who actually have economic success and what they're voting for, because classism actually matters as well. So
all right, so even when it comes to white supremacy and all that, and the classism as well that she may speak to, it's like I said, white people have their own kind of hierarchy that they do, you feel me? So they have their own kind of way that they move. So even when you come to thinking about these ideas, even with the idea of feminism wasn't intended for black people, Ninja. If you ain't know, Ninja. The idea of feminism was intended for white women to have more power, Ninja. You ain't know that, Ninja? Yeah, Ninja, it wasn't about you. It was for white women to have access to more power, so that way, in case the men ever lost power, the white women had power. If the white man lost power, guess who's in power now? The white woman. And it just keeps going back and forth. You ninjas just fell for it. Past that, it is what it is, Ninja. Here we go.
I'm sorry, but a lot of people vote based on their feelings and not based on policy.
Pause, guys.
Yes.
And everybody votes based off of feelings and not, well, a good majority of people are voting based off of their feelings and not policies, because that's just how it's intended, especially when it comes to the Democratic Party. Shout out to the Republicans and shout out to the Democrats, but Democrats are specifically voting off of their emotions. So when it comes down to policies, some people know the policies, but the majority of people don't. When it comes to the Republicans know policies as well, but I told you guys earlier, I believe in today's stream, that Republicans fall in line like the military. So whether or not the policies are good, not good, they're gonna fall in line with each other, because that's just how they roll, man. That's it for tonight's show, Ninja. Let us know what you think, Ninja. Let us know what you think, my Ninja. It is what it is, Ninja. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's gonna be what it is. The people in power are the reason why we're in the current state of affairs that we're in. Past that, yeah, there's going to be a woman president. There's going to be more women in all these spaces. It is what it is. But just always remember, you get what you wish for, Ninja. I'll leave it at that. Shout out to you if you tune in, man. If you tune in, you are the resistance. You are the core. Shout out to the Adam. Shout out to the Eves.